Okay. Hey, gang. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in today. I am excited to have Michaela Lindinger here with us all the way from Austria, right? And
Hello, servus.
we're gonna have a lot of fun today because we're gonna talk about her business that she has taken online, what inspired her to do that, and we're gonna get into a little bit about who she serves and what she does and all of that kind of good stuff. So I'm super excited to have you with us here today. Talk to me a little bit about your motivation. Like, what was your motivation for starting a business online in the first place? I mean, you could definitely serve people in your local community, but what really motivated you to go bigger?
Well, Bill, thanks first of all to having me here today and having that chat. I was really looking forward to this. And hello to all the ladies and maybe some gents girls out there joining us today. I guess, when you look at motivation for me, and I was thinking about the other day, what is it actually that got me to that entrepreneurial, mompreneurial state that I'm in? And it really goes back, and I mean, it sounds funny, we all know that, but it really has the traits back in my childhood, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to tell you guys that my dad, he was an entrepreneur by heart, so he had lots of different companies, just small ones, but he was just the one who always could work by his schedule. If he didn't like clients, then he took others. And if he didn't like the product anymore, he used another one. So from him, here is little Michaela there, watching daddy, what he does and how he does business. He never had to go to the office at 8 o'clock in the morning. And like in Austria, we have 9 weeks of summer vacation. That's a really long time for parents. I know that myself now being a mom. So, but it was never an issue because I never had to go to camps or to my uncles or to my grandparents, because at least dad, he could arrange his schedule. So here's me learning from my dad back in the very, very early days that entrepreneurs actually do the stuff they like and they make their own schedule. And me being an independence lover, I'm like, oh, this is cool. I like that. And then there is my mom. My mom, actually, she was a nurse. And she always wanted to she loved to become a doctor. And I know she had the things to become a doctor, but her parents, prohibited her to go to university. They couldn't afford it. So actually, the only thing she was allowed to do was to get to the level where you become a nurse, but no doctor. And there's my mom, and she always wanted, whenever there was an opportunity to go into some medical things, she was just right on it. And so I could really watch her, I would almost say suffer that she really couldn't go by her passion. And I think in that kind of like in that little ecosystem, there is me seeing the entrepreneur do the stuff he likes, working his own schedule. And on the other hand, seeing my mom having a real potential, and not being able to use it, right? So I'm like, all right, this is not what I want to do. So fast forward, I do have a business degree, and I went to business school, international education, all that. And I think eventually, yes, I did end up in the corporate world, and I personally do believe it's a very, very cool learning curve there. But there was a point in time when I said, all right, I'm done with that. So I want to go back to what I learned. And obviously, this is some sort of a pattern that we all get with our families, right? And I really tried to combine those two. So I call it the entrepreneurial freedom, with all the ups and downs that freedom has, obviously, and the going for my passion, doing what I love and not what somebody else tells me or what some board expects from me in a C-level position. And that's actually what made me become my own boss, so to say, or become my own CEO.
Yeah, that's amazing, and it's really cool that you share those backstories, because I think any of us that succeed at building a business online, we definitely all have something in our past that has led us there, that has actually not only motivated us, but has prepared us to become the kind of person that we needed to become in order to be able to do this. I've got a 22-year-old daughter myself, and I definitely wanted to be able to provide that kind of I wanted her to develop that kind of thinking like you have, to be able to do what she wanted to do. And you've got a daughter yourself, so.
Yes. She's 9. She's not 22 yet, but she's a big one. If wouldn't call her a small girl, right? She doesn't like that.
Yeah. But that's good. I mean, because every generation levels up a little bit, right? The tools and the opportunity she's going to have because of who you've become is going to be amazing. So that's a big why in itself. Aside from the idea that, okay, I'm going to have more freedom and I'm going to be able to make more money, there's a lot of meaning behind it, and there's a ripple effect that happens.
Absolutely. And I also think, I see that a lot with my clients. I'm an entrepreneur myself. And for all the ladies who are out there, whether you're on a payroll being an executive position, or you are really doing your own thing, I mean, it's just, it's sometimes more of an uphill struggle than a smooth ride. We all know that, right? But I'm a true believer that by the way I can show up to my daughter, and yes, maybe there is here or there an hour that she's missing mommy time. But I know that I can work with clients, and I love the work I do. And she has not heard the sentence, I hate to go to work, and I gotta
Mm,
go to work, and I gotta
yes.
do that stupid thing. She's not heard that in the 9 years she's been on that planet for one time, because she knows, yes, mommy is gone eventually every once in a while, and she needs to work with client. And right now
Mhm.
she's outside in the garden. I say, guys, you be a
Yep.
bit
Yep.
quiet. I'm having an interview here. And she knows that, and she knows mommy loves what she does. And mommy has her own job, and she creates her own world. And I think this is very, very important for all us ladies, especially out there who have kids, that we show them that there is a different role, and that you have, as you just said, for your daughter, you can do what you want to do. And I think this is, let me put it this way. I hope that enough women understand it's not just the guilty part we have as missing time with family, but we're also sharing a lot of powerful things with our girls and boys, especially all here, to say you can do what you want, and mom and dad both can do what they want, right? I think this
Yeah.
is super important.
Yeah, I think that's true because, like, you referenced your mother earlier, and you were talking about the fact that, this is, she couldn't do certain things. And I guess you would say that people were expected to follow certain career paths or jobs,
Mm,
right? So in my world,
right.
in your world, we're not teaching our kids that you just have to go get a job and follow
Mm,
whatever is acceptable at the time. We're literally not using the word job. We're teaching you how to create your own future, how to build your own business.
absolutely.
And there's a
Yeah.
difference when you grow up like that.
Yeah.
So super cool.
Yeah. Yeah. This is really fun. And I think, just again, back on this, I think really that entrepreneurial spirit, as I call it, this is something, if there was a subject they would teach in kindergarten, I'd love to see that, because I'm a true believer that there are certain things we need, whether we become an entrepreneur or we become whatever job we, at the end of the day, we follow, whatever profession we go into. There is so many things that we are never told. And one of those things is like to ask yourself, what do I really want? What actually pays on to that thing that I
Yes.
call at the end of my life, this was an amazing ride. And I think this is part of the duty that we have to really show our kids. This is a cool thing, go create it. And I think sometimes we need to get a bit older than just 9 or 22. I have clients who are 50 and who've now started to ask that question themselves. And I think this is important, as long as you ask it, right?
Yeah. And I think that, I just turned 50. So, you go through those ages and stages, and sometimes those things start to shift.
Mm,
What you used to want versus what you want now changes. And
sure.
especially too with your kids, as your kids get older, and part of what you talk about is that balancing of career ambition and productivity versus, the age of your kids. And that changes too based on their age.
Right.
So, I think that's another thing, is to say it's okay to change into a different season, but because of the person you've become, you're able to do that,
Mm,
right?
mm,
So
right.
the core
Right.
four that you're going to talk about in a little bit, I'm excited for everybody to
Yeah.
understand that, because you know a lot of people go through, and they're not thinking consciously about what's going on. They're just kind of going
Mm.
through the day instead of understanding how to balance. But let's talk about this first before we get into that. Uh, Biggest challenges going from, corporate world in person to boom, all of a sudden I'm online. What are the challenges with that?
How many minutes do I have?
Go ahead. We're
No,
gonna
just
let you
kidding.
just roll.
I think there's a lot of things. Maybe I just start with something that I actually found out a couple of years into my entrepreneurial journey here. And when you work in an executive position, a corporate world, right? There is, whether you're in finance, in HR, in marketing, in supply chain, wherever you are, whatever function or ecosystem you belong to, there's always somebody getting it done for you. And I'm not talking about my personal EA that I've had in the past. and of course, that's also very interesting, you know, if somebody who just takes off the little nitty gritty things like, you know, appointments and people not sending attachments and all the funny things. So I think what really was a tricky thing for me to say, okay, what is it that in the corporate world somebody did kind of like behind me or around me, and now I have to do it myself. Very simple example. When I worked for my last employer, we had like frequent what they called like kind of a magazine or, you know, white papers they published on really cool things. So there were almost scientists creating white papers that I could just take, and I walk up to a potential client, and obviously it levels up my credibility. Now here I am in my own, you know, entrepreneurial starting line. I'm like, who wrote the white paper, and who wrote the cool stuff, and who created the ad for me, and who's done that all? Well, obviously there is none unless you start building your team again. And I think from day one onwards, that was for me a very interesting thing to experience. And obviously that actually adds to the second challenge to say, what is the priority? How do you prioritize things? You know, I mean, in a very simple term, we are entrepreneurs. So on the one hand, we need to be out on the street in you know, under parentheses here, or in serving our clients in delivery work. And then we need to be in I call it sales and strategizing work. So it's not just working in your business. We all know cool entrepreneurs work on their business, right? So I think that was a big learning for me at the beginning. And then there were just, I call them smaller ones, like, which tools do I use? It's not that there is not enough tools out there, right? But, and tools including processes. How do you set up your client structure, database? How do you work online? How do you post your stuff? And I think at the end of the day, what I found out that I think you actually have to understand that there's way too much. You can do it all by yourself. I think that's learning number one. And learning number two was for me very quickly to say, okay, I can actually, I call it pay for the shortcut, right? So what really did cost a level up for me in different areas of my business and also in different stages is to always hook up with cool mentors, call them coaches, call them sparring partners, but where I knew they've done it. Why would I bother go back to the Middle Ages and try to figure that issue out, how it's done?
100%.
I would just have to call the right person or write the right person, or, you know, just work with them individual. And I think this is something I don't just do for my own clients, but it's something I know looking back at the last couple of years in business, it's been a real game changer. Every time I did really start to pay for the shortcut. I think that's a phrase I would like to leave here.
Yeah, 100%. I've found the exact same thing. When you have a scarcity mindset and you try to hold back because you think you're actually going to save something by trying to figure it out and do it yourself, and you like to tinker with things and try to figure it out, you never get past go, and you never actually create a business. You may be really intelligent and be amazing at what you do, and you never get it going. So, you know, I think I think that's great advice, is to pretty much every year put something in a budget to say, who do I need to talk to that's going to help me level up, and you know, who walks their talk and who can make it happen. So those are great words of advice. So let's talk about the fun part. Let's talk about your actual business. So and I've got to learn, because we've been working together, right, on building this out for you. I've got to learn a lot about what you do and how you do, and started to understand a little bit more about the psychology behind what you do. So let's talk to us about this. Who do you really help? Like, who's your avatar and how does it work?
Okay, so I think I need to go back maybe just 2 steps to help people understand why I ended up where I ended up, right? So when I did, and I mentioned this earlier, I do have a business degree, and I worked for large organizations like automotive, pharmaceuticals, chemicals, utilities, energy, like all these heavy tankers, right? Like these big things. By the way, very male-dominated societies and peer groups. And we always came in there, and what was my kind of like, you know, specialty, so to say, was to bring in strategy and innovation and digital strategy work. And this was very unknown back in, I don't know, 2010, 2010, when we did that. So we always came into that organization saying, hey guys, there is something new. It's cool. It's digital. You've never seen it. You don't know how to do it, but hey, believe me, it's cool. And obviously you can tell there is resistance, right? So, and then fast forward, I always knew the projects I did with clients, they never succeeded because I had the better blueprint or the better best practice toolbox, whatever. I knew they worked at the end of the day because I worked with the client and I saw the people who actually had to make that transition or who had to lead that transformation. It was not me, it was how I interacted with them. Now, fast forward when I came back from my baby break, and I was just done with diapers and I don't know, carrots and whatever you do with little babies, right? I'm like, my brain is dead. I just became a mother. I didn't kind of like, give away my gray thing up there. I'm like, all right, there needs to be some good stuff. So I went back to university. And I got my master's degree in coaching psychology, focusing on leaders and health, because I really wanted to understand what it means that I saw myself and my clients and my coworkers in a corporate world suffer. I mean, suffer in terms of like not getting the breakthrough, not moving things as they wanted them to move. Mm-hmm. And on the other hand, we know we have, science has basically taken our brain apart. There is neuroscience, brain hacking, body hacking, food hacking. We all know that, right? And then there is me, like back in 2014, and it felt really like there is the business world and there is I call it the sciences, right? Not just brain and neuroscience, many other things. And it's almost like this 1 meter of glass wall in between the two of them, and they can't look through, but they have such valuable things to tell to each other, right? And this was really the kind of like the minute where my own company, the first one out of the 3 I've had in the past, Brain and Spa was born. And Brain and Spa is really what I call it an executive sparring and employee experience company, where we show leaders, top level executives, how to maximize healthy high performance. And I think this is really the combination of I call it the corporate, the business world and the sciences that we bring together in a way where we say, that makes sense, because business people, they don't have time in their schedule for lengthy white papers and scientific studies and all that stuff, although it's important. And so I think this is really what made me kind of like pull those pieces together and say, all right, I know how an executive feels, and I've now had my studies, so to say, what's out there. Why not bring the science side into the business people world? And this is basically what I've done, and what at the end of the day, you mentioned it earlier, what the core 4 is all about, right? And I think for the people I work with, this is really, and maybe we start there with what kind of people I work with is, I think that you can work with people where you know how they feel, because you want to be authentic, right? And I know best how to be. I'm a millennial. I'm not 40 yet. I'm a mom. I have had a corporate career. I've had board level positions. I'm a university professor for digital business model and innovation and leadership stuff. And I think what I can do best is what I call being a sparring partner to people who are in similar position. Not only women, sometimes it's male leaders approaching me saying, you need to help me understand. I'm just a bit puzzled here. And I know I can talk to like a guy, and I've been growing up in a very, very guy dominated society or peer group, but I'm also a woman and I'm a mompreneur and I'm a mom myself. So I think this is really where my people, my avatars are, to say, okay, I know I can serve those high power executive professional women, but also guys who really carry the weight of the world on their shoulder, but who want to understand or want to enjoy what they say, at their passion, their drive, their productivity, without, giving up balance and ease. And I think this is kind of like, we could put it in a nutshell to say, these are the kind of people I know I work best with, and I know I can, they like to work with me. Let's put it this way.
Yeah, I think it is really important, because a lot of times when you're in that leadership role, whether you're male or female, a lot of times you feel like you're kind of like, you're on an island and you don't have that sparring partner, as you call it, somebody to talk to and bounce things off of. And sometimes that other set of eyes looking at what you're doing and how you're doing it, and then having them give you their perspective to get you back on the rails again sometimes, because it's easy to go off the rails, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is a really tricky thing, and this is at least what many of my clients reflect back to me. And whenever I have like a first conversation with them, it's so funny because I say, listen up, I will not kind of like, make you look good or make you feel good. I'm here to be your sparring partner, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell within a minute the ones that say, ooh, this sounds dangerous, I better back off, right? I'm like, yeah, this is a good thing, you better back off. Because if we're starting to do that thing, I just want to work with people who are in a serious leadership position, who really want to, create a breakthrough, who want to, I always could call it push the boundaries to a certain extent. I don't want to, and I can't work. I'm very open on this one. I can't work with people just sit back and say, oh, let's just relax and see what's happening, right? I love to work with people in the driver's seat because I'm a true believer that being in the driver's seat is what makes life, at least to me, a bit more fun than just watch and see parties, right? So yeah, I'm fully with you on this one, that especially with leaders, I have so many clients where I know, and they just come back and they love that they have a sparring partner, a one-on-one, a person they can talk to, who's not just asking the right questions, but who sometimes just does a devil's advocate to them. And all of a sudden their thinking patterns start over again, and they look at things from different perspectives. And obviously that makes them just a better leader at the end of the day, if you have a partner you can reflect things with together. And this is never your spouse, and it's not your coworkers either, right?
I lost your video.
Oh, that's not good.
There we are. We're good.
There we are. Okay.
So I just thought of a new line then that you need inside of your membership area, and it needs to say, bring it on, because that's the person that you want, right? When you say, are you ready for a challenge? You want somebody that says, bring it on. You don't want somebody that says, I'm not sure about this. So I just made myself a note, underlined it, circled it, and put a star next to it, because
that's good.
That is true. You want somebody that says, bring it on. I'm ready for it. Let me see what you got. And those are the people that are going to rise up. They're going to become the person that they need to become. And they're going to welcome somebody challenging them to become a better version of themselves.
Yeah.
So that's super cool. So let's talk about, you mentioned the core four. So let's tell everybody what's the core four? Let's talk about that.
I think in simple terms, it's the one thing that really works with high power executives and high performance in a healthy way. And the core four is actually, I call it the be me, and that's the abbreviation for body, emotions, mind, and executive career. Now, why is there four? And I mean, sometimes, it sounds too obvious to be true, but what I've experienced in my own career, what I've experienced with friends and former colleagues, and what I experience with my clients today is the following. When, let's say, they are struggling with their body, whether it's not in shape or they need to practice for a marathon or whatever it is, they obviously have a huge focus on body work. Could be diet, could be sports, whatever. And they just leave out the rest for a second. Then there are the others who obviously have some relationship things going on, either at work or at home. So they intensely focus on that emotion/relationship thing. And then there are the thirds who kind of like, came across some Olympic athlete and who told them, oh, it's all about the mind. And they go start mind work, but they leave out the rest. Mm-hmm. So at the end of the day, what's really making a difference is not as much as we say focus on a business thing. I'm a true believer about focus. But when it comes to really achieving healthy, high performance, you need to work on all core four. And it's kind of like, it's almost layering on top of each other, right? So does that mean you don't do each one good enough? No, not at all. The tricky thing here is just to say, what is it in all the four that I can do simultaneously that just builds the ground level? And then obviously there's a level 1, a level 2, level 3. So I think this is really the thing that's the one big thing I see in many, many breakthroughs happening, is that we look at the core four, where each person is at each of those four, and we just take it from there and say, okay, what's the next step on the body? What's the next thing on your emotion work? What's the next thing on your mindset work? And what's the next thing on your executive career level? And if you look at all four together, it's just much more of, I hate the word, but it's a holistic picture at the end of the day. And that was what works. Otherwise you kind of like, sideways, like a boat, this is not good. You just want to be straight and you want to be going full throttle here. And for that, you actually need to have four wheels, like in a car, right?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that because, you know, if you take the example of like body, right? If you put all of your, if you don't take care of the vehicle that you've got to do the work, and you can't maintain the energy level that you need in order to be able to not only give your business attention, but then once you get
Mm.
home to have the balance with like your daughter or with, you know, my two kids. And if I don't have any energy left at the end of the day to do that, things are way out of whack because, you know,
Oh yeah.
if success was only financial, that would be one thing. But I think for most of us at a high level, money alone is not success, right? You have to
Oh
have
no.
the balance. And then
Yeah.
if you go the other way, right, and you only focus on your executive career, right, then that's why we have problems in the world where kids grow up and they're not, you know, they haven't had the attention that they've needed from their parents, and then they go off and you know, and that causes, so maintaining the flow and balance between those four things, 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have a very, very personal, two very personal stories I want to share, because you were just mentioning that, you know, the money part and the executive career versus the family thing. When I was working and I just got out of university and I had a really, really cool job, one of my uber super high up bosses, let's call it, his name is Ralph. He is Swiss. And he was a brilliant guy. He was a brilliant people developer. He was just a brilliant salesperson. He was really somebody we all really looked up to, like, oh my gosh, he's just crushing it, right? And then there was Christmas, and whether it was the 22nd or the 23rd or the 21st of December, whenever there was last day, you're on site with the client and you just leave for a Christmas break, he was literally the one who was kind of like fighting the tears, because he had to go back. I mean, back then he was already 50 or 48 or something. He had to go back to his mom because he just, you know, he had millions of dollars on his bank account, but he didn't have time to find a woman or to create a
Oh,
family himself.
yeah.
I'm like, this, you know, that really, I mean, still remember now, obviously he's happily married. I'm very happy that he finally found the love of his life. And then there's another story, another great mentor of mine. He's also a very, very successful business person, international. He has like 3 boys. And when I was pregnant, he was the only one who was always very, you know, interested in, is everything okay? Are you feeling well? Do you need a different project? Is this okay? Can you take the workload? I don't know, this is interesting that he's, you know, so close. I mean, he's obviously not a woman, he's a guy. And when I was in hospital and there was like this little baby thing called my daughter, she was just in my arms. I got a text message from that guy, and he said, just do me one favor. Well, obviously, congratulations, and are you all safe and good? And then he said, do me one favor and don't make the same mistake I did. And I just thought I don't have to see my boys for the first 15 years and then catch up and make, you know, be a good dad just when I have time for it. And that kind of like really touched me. Like, wait a second, he's such a cool guy. And I saved that text message, and it reminded me again and again every time over the last 9 years since my daughter was born, to say, okay, wait a second, what's really important? And I think we have to be honest here and to say, we are parents, and we're humans to the part of what's really valuable in our life, which does not mean we cannot have a career, and which does not mean we can't watch out for our own body, and which does not mean we can't work on our minds, right? So I think it's really the core for being the foundation work for making whatever crazy journey you're up for with your life.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's super, because it's so easy when you're an entrepreneur, especially, or you're in a profession. It's so easy to get sucked into doing things in your business,
Oh yeah.
even though you're consciously telling yourself, "I need to work on my business." It
Hey,
will.
we're human.
That's right, and it sucks you back in,
Oh yeah.
and to continually have somebody to make sure that that what you're building, and you're, you know, obviously you're dealing with intelligent people, so be intelligent enough to build the thing that's going to serve you, that gives you the end result that you want, and that's
Mm,
be able to provide for your family, but have the freedom to do it, but also,
exactly.
make you feel good about what you've been able to achieve. So I think
Yeah.
it's so cool what you're doing, and I think it's gonna serve a lot of people. So let's talk about this then. Um, because we've been building this together, the Be Me 7-day intensive.
Mm.
I told everybody that you were going to give it to them for free.
Oh, you did? Well, then I have to, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm excited about it because I got to put my hands in it and see what it was, right? And
Oh
see what the
yeah.
content was and the titles and the content, you know, reviewing it and watching it and going through the whole thing. I said, wow, this is good. So let's talk about that. Talk about the 7-day intensive, what everybody's going to get. And I want to make sure that I give everybody the link for people that are on the replay. I'll make sure
Cool.
that
Hmm.
I send out the link and all of that, but talk to me about the
Yeah.
intensive.
All right. So as we said, be me, the core four. What the 7-day intensive is really about is like the foundation. So what we put in there is whenever a client approaches, and I'm like, all right, it's almost like if you go on vacation, you need to pack your suitcase and you need to think whether you go, I don't know, we go into the Alps for skiing and we go to Italy or to Greece for summer, and we might just go for a hike, in our area. And I think it's almost like that. You need to take a step back and say, all right, am I prepared, right? And with that, am I prepared, there's a few things obviously that we don't put into a suitcase, but in this case we put into the 7-day intensive. And I don't want to go through every single one because I'm sure you guys are cool enough to check it out. So just 2 or 3 examples here. I think one thing that we put in there is a way to what we call declutter your mental mess. And I really mean declutter, like what's going on up there, mind level, one of the core 4, where you say, okay, how can I actually sort things out? Another one is focus on, put on your focus laser. A great mentor of mine, he once said, like light, is bright and can shine out a whole room. But if you bundle it into a laser, it can actually cut through metal, right? And having this idea in mind, the question is, okay, what are we focusing our attention, which is actually our most important resource as human beings? What are we focusing our attention on right now? And there's obviously a few other cool things in there. Now, there's one thing I want to point out, especially here to the audience, is I come from a background where I never had too much time. So whenever I saw cool content, it took like 15 hours to go through. I'm like, whoa, I don't
Yeah.
even start. That's too long, right? And if it's too philosophical, I'm like, well, yeah, this is cool. I love to have philosophical discussions, but not if I want to learn something. I'm, bit under time pressure here. So what we did with the 7-day intensive, I think the videos are not longer than around about 20 minutes. Some of them are even shorter. And the idea really is to give people a quick understanding of, let's call it the theory behind, like why is it that we are doing. I'm a true believer you always need to understand the why of whatever it is that somebody's telling you. And then it's really more or less a couple minutes of a guiding them through an activity. Now, why is that important? Because obviously, as the old Latin goes, in medias res, yeah. So it's kind of like get started right away. Otherwise, it's just chitter chatty and it never goes anywhere. You need to feel it to create it. That actually what's causing change happening, right? So, and I think this is really the combination of setting the foundation on all core 4, getting started, see where you are, and every single sequence actually has an activity, as I call it, a short exercise that you can do for yourself. And once you're done with those 7 days, I promise that you have almost like clarity. It's kind of like taking up a 10,000 feet view on where you currently are and where you actually want to go. And then I always say, then you're ready for a bigger challenge to come afterwards. But it's like the foundation work that you can get inside the BME 7-day intensive.
Yeah, and it is good content. I will tell you that right now, people. So make sure that you go. I dropped the link into the chat window so you can grab it there. I will also make sure I post it and I will email it and get everybody to go check that out, because that's a pretty cool gift. 7 days to get really focused and involved in this intensive. It's going to be really cool. I think it's going to be a game changer for a lot of people.
Yeah. It's been for a lot of people a game changer, so we know it works.
Yeah, and I think this is the magic, and this is the magic behind going online, because it's like here's this person that's got these skills, this talent, this ability to change people's lives, and you're doing it in a more a corporate level, or even just in your region, and now all of a sudden you get to reach out to the world and influence thousands, tens of thousands,
Absolutely.
millions of people, because whether you're male or female, if you're in that leadership role, everybody juggles, everybody is trying to manage those things, trying to create that balance. And sometimes we just need that person there that really understands. It can help us create some clarity. And I think the intensive does that.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's really based on, it's not theory, it's really based on, I don't want to overestimate my own experience here, don't get me wrong, but I think what have seen as an executive in the business, in the corporate, as an entrepreneur in that part of the world, and what I've seen in the, call it my science studies, and with people I got surrounded there, and it's really about that bringing together two worlds. I think that's always something that I love to do, and I think there's just so much power in that moment when all of a sudden two things that are by definition separate or supposed to be separated, when they come together. I think this is a very unique thing to say, all right, now I get it. This is not a super brilliant psychology professor talking to me who has never seen the real world. Right. And it's not some guy who's been an executive for decades and had just read, just read a good book on, I don't know, brain hacking, and now he extracts the best part. I think I can feel very well how busy business people, how their schedule and, what's pushing them and what's hard on their shoulders. And I don't want to say I know a lot, but I know a little bit about the theory behind how we work and why we behave in certain ways. And I think that was my intention here, to really bring those two worlds together and make it easier at the end of the day for top level leaders out there.
Very cool. Very cool. Any last minute thoughts? Because I think that was just amazing, and I don't want to spoil the soup by adding too many ingredients. I just thought that was just really good.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it comes down to what I mentioned earlier. If there is one unique thing that we as human beings at the end of the day, what we have is attention. I truly believe that whatever you put your attention on, this is where things will be moving. And if wherever you are out there, it's always a question: are you getting back into your driver's seat? What are you putting your attention on? And do you want to do it all by yourself and kind of find your way through? And sometimes it can take decades, actually. Or are you willing to just get that partner that I call it a buddy? And sometimes I say to my clients, I'm your biggest big sister and your devil's advocate in one person, whether you like it or not, right? And I truly think that people learn and develop with people, whether this is a group of 5, or this is a one-on-one, or this is a huge crowd. And I think that's the final message for me here is to, whenever you want to grow, it's always outside your comfort zone. And whenever we are outside of our comfort zone, it's very nice if you have a human touch and a person, a real human, guiding you on that bumpy road towards your next level, and then you can take it from there. I think that's just a question of safety, and safety takes out stress, and that's what all business people need anyway.
Let's end with this then. Once somebody goes inside the intensive and they really love it, and they like, wow, what do I do next? Will they be able to have a conversation with you if they want to, if they, if they just say, wow, I'd really like to talk to Michaela myself, they're going to be able to do that?
Yes. I'm a very open person. I love to network. I love to get to know other people. And I think I kind of like put the warning out up front earlier that I say, I'm very open. If there is no fit, then I'll tell you right away. But I think what I always offer, if somebody is looking into the 7-day intensive, if this really speaks your language, and this is something where you say, hey, I want more, for sure there is more. And there is always more with a very personal touch. There is no online course. The more is always working with a human person, in this case working with me, and making sure you, meaning the audience, somebody from the audience who's gone through the 7-day intensive, if you feel that there is more that potential that you have inside, then I'm more than happy to jump on a friendly chat, and we see where we can take that on the next level.
Okay, so I'll do my part, and I will make sure that I put your contact information inside the 7-day intensive, so that when somebody's in there, that they don't have to search for you, they can just find you right away.
Yeah, that's awesome.
We'll
do that.
Well,
awesome.
I thank you
very much
so much for joining us today. That was really inspirational, super excited about it. And I will make sure that I get everybody the replay that wants to take a look at it.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your time, Bill, for the interview. And thanks to all the people out there who've been with us live and who might watch the replay. I'm looking forward to at least getting to know a few more of you and seeing you join the 7-day intensive.
Awesome. Thanks, Michaela.
Thank you.
Talk to you
Bye-bye.
soon. Bye-bye.